My personal view is that the armed incursion aspect of this, while very important and very, headline grabbing, it will dissipate relatively soon. Russia is probably very close to have achieved all of its military goals. They haven't achieved all of them, but I suspect they feel they're fairly close to having achieved them. So I don't expect the large-scale violence of the last 24, 48 hours to continue indefinitely. I think it will begin to dissipate relatively soon. And I personally think history will end up recording that the most powerful and most important things Russia has done during this period were not their kinetic actions, but rather their non-kinetic actions that occur primarily in cyberspace, but are, regardless of the medium, are fundamentally influence and information operations that in many ways are more important than their armed might. I'm more worried about Russia's influence operations than I am worried about their ability to do cyber infrastructure attacks. Both are very worrisome. But if you're able to change what an entire population believes, you may not have to attack anything. That population will do what you want them to do anyways. There are a lot of weapons in Ukraine. We've all seen the news reporting about how the Ukrainian government has been liberally distributing weapons to its population. I think it is ripe for an insurgent effort against the Russians. The Russians are rational actors. I'm sure they've thought about this. So one of the things I'm sure they will focus on is how can they use their significant capabilities on the internet, in social media, in the dark web, to intimidate, to persuade Ukrainians that might otherwise wish to take up arms against them that it is now a foolish choice, that you will gain no profit from this, you will regret doing this. Don't do it. I don't think that the current approach or array of capabilities to conduct countervailing information and influence operations to contest what Russia is doing in Europe today are adequate. I want to make sure I'm clear about why I believe that's true. It's not that we don't have capability. We have abundant capability. But I have been quite concerned for many years. I've stated publicly in several different fora, both before and after I retired, that our fundamental problem is we tend to be risk averse in using them. We sometimes fall into the trap of being more worried about how an influence or information operation might go wrong, instead of focusing on what do we have to accomplish by doing this. Because there's no such thing as any kind of government activity that will not ultimately invite some degree of failure. Failure is necessary in order to learn how to do better. But sometimes I've seen our government adopt a zero tolerance policy when it comes to failure in cyberspace, when it comes to information operations. And I can understand why people want to avoid failure. But if that's the track you follow, what you don't realize is you are actually being more risk averse than your adversary. And that's a pretty direct path to failure if you're unwilling to take risks that your adversary is willing to take.